Uh, Good morning, everyone. Salamun alaikum wa rahmatullah. And I'm very happy to be honored to speak in this very prestigious symposium. And I wish I can deliver my speech in a way that help the goals of this symposium. I need first thank the organizers, the ISAR Foundation, and all the organizing committee to give me this chance to explore for you our experiments and our exercises in Iran in this field. Uh, then I want to talk about the issue of justification. It's very important, first of all, to when we want to speak about how something is justified in a society and how it is accepted, we need to have a good look on the context and do the context analysis. This is true when we are trying to approach medical ethics or bioethics cases as well. Yesterday we had a case with one of the colleagues in gynecology department, and my point was that it is not even possible to talk about such cases except we have the context information about each one. It is true about the biomedical ethics itself and the sensitive issues. You know, yesterday was a quotation by Dr. Hakan about we need a normative base. Something is needed. It means that there are normative questions that need to be addressed in the practice of medicine or biological sciences that we call all of them bioethics. And medicine and biology are not self-sufficient in this regard. All of us can agree on this issue, and then we need a normative source for that. And the Hippocratic tradition is a kind of normative source that was indigenous, invented by the medical sector. Let's take a historical look at the issue. And during the history, we see that, for example, we have a pre-Hippocratic extra-professional effect or influence on the medical ethics. When you go to philosophy, you see that the Hippocratic tradition came out from a Pythagorean ethics. And the Pythagorean ethics was very greatly influenced by Zoroastrian ethics, which was a religion of this region at the time. So even before Hippocratic tradition, we had some external influence on the medical sector as the source of normativity. By the time of Hippocrates and afterwards, we have Hippocratic tradition. We need to understand that this is not only Hippocrates, it's a tradition. There are many texts and many people involved. In that time, the medical profession itself tried to have an indigenous, from internal kind of normative source. And it took centuries. Even until now, we have a very strong Hippocratic tradition, for example, in places such as World Medical Association. By the start of 19th century and 20th century, we had a new era of influencing medical normative source by the philosophy. And it was started in Edinburgh University in Scotland, then extended to United States. And it was the started philosophers, Ilhan Iklich yesterday talks about brain death, an issue and the role of philosophers. At that time, there were many philosophers that tried to, prepare a base for medical ethics, and it was extended to United States, and until now it continues. But recently again, we have a sinus, pattern. Recently again, there are very good examples that show that independent, there is a professional independent movement again in over the world. We heard about the circumcision debate in Europe during the last years. And there are other examples. For example, in ICRC, International Committee of Red Cross documents, in the futility movement in United States in 90s and beginning of this century, there were movements in United States that say that when we are saying that something is futile, then we can withdraw or withhold that medical intervention. They understood that physicians should do that. So these are, again, a kind of movement toward an endogenous and intra-professional source of normativity. But anyway, I think that we can agree on this issue that a source of normativity from outside of medical profession is required. And I want to tell you about justification. I want to explain that I mean the explanation of justification, that it's how ideas are accepted and translated into practice in one place. So I have some case studies for you that show that how these things have been justified in Iranian health system. Now we are talking about health system. And the problem most of the time is that some regulations, some understandings from health and physician and disease came from the traditional patient-physician relationship, while we are now in a modern era that these are only some players of the field. We have hospitals, we have health system, we have governments. So we need to modify our understandings and about this issue for the modern time. The first case study in living unrelated kidney transplantation. You know, Iran has a unique system. People can sell their kidneys in Iran and they receive money for that. And it is based on maybe more, can I say, the silence of the normative source, which is now in Iran, the normative source is one interpretation of Sharia, or I can easily say one interpretation of Shia understanding of Islam. So in this understanding, we can see that the first living unrelated kidney transplantation was done before Islamic Revolution. That is very key point in my speech. And then continued after revolution by related from family members, and then extended to unrelated kidney donors. This program is based mainly on the argument of no harm and harassment and forbiddingness of harming the self on one hand, and incumbency of saving the human beings as the dignified and respected creatures on the other hand. And organ transplantation from living donors is generally accepted among Iranian jurists. I mean accepted because there isn't any objection about that in Iranian seminaries and religious parts. So this is very well accepted by Iranian religious scholars, and it is practiced. Also in medical ethics, many medical ethicists have problem with this system because it is suffers from an uncontrollable slippery slope. In Iran, almost the altruistic donation of kidneys is zero, the rate, because when one body is asked to, give the kidney to another one, he says that I will buy you one. Then it's not the case. And there are negative experience of involving NGOs and private hospitals. The black market was very bad in private sector, so it was also a source of transplantation tourism. Some people came from Saudi Arabia. It was forbidden internationality transplantation, but in private hospitals, we saw that there are many examples. So this is an example of a non-official acceptance in the system. We do not have a law, but it is just permitted. The second case is about tissue transplantation from deceased donors. For example, cornea, for example, bones, those tissues that could be extracted from deceased corpse. It is again accepted. I mean that there isn't any great objection about that in Iran. So again, according to the necessity for respecting human corpse, on one hand, and the incumbency of saving or life or health of human beings as dignified, respected creatures on the other hand, in this balancing, Iranian jurists usually have tendency to give permission to having this cornea or bones with the consent of the family. And there are voices also that, as our colleague from UK told us, that, for example, corpse after death are a kind of anfal. It means they are belong to the Islamic government and we can use them even without consent. These voices are not very strong in the country. Even now, the system does not recognize those kind of things. So, about the second case, again, there is an unofficial acceptance in the system, and again, fatwas are positive in this regard. The difference between this one and the previous one is that in the kidney selling, the number of fatwas that we have are very rare. They are not numerous. It's a kind of silence among jurists more than, telling proudly that you can sell your kidneys, because the understanding of the society is in a sense that it's not a good thing to do. For example, I give you an example. Some times ago, some workers of a factory were protesting for their salaries. And there were a slogan written on a very big paper that we are ready to sell our kidneys. It means that in the society, it is not a good thing to hear, or it's a kind of unaccepted issue. The third one that was debated yesterday here is organ transplantation from brain death donors. When we come to history and looking the fatwas, usually in this case, the situation was very, very sensitive in the country. There were very need to doing transplantation, and there were a great number of brain death victims because in Iran has one of the highest rates of car accident and injuries, and then many, many cases of brain death, as well as there were some surgeons that were very strong in the country. One of them was Minister of Health at that time. It was the last year of the Ayatollah Khomeini, the previous leader of the country, life. And maybe the fatwa was taken from him just 2 weeks before his death. So he's putting away. So Dr. Fazl went and they tried to explain the situation and received the fatwa for this issue. Again, many other jurists have positive fatwas in this regard, but the main issue is that they do not consider brain death as death. We need to be very careful about this issue. When we're talking about brain death, we are not just talking about harvesting organs from one people. We need to look at the other side of the coin, and it is saving a lot of lives. And those jurists who permitted this issue is more based on saving people, and this is a real save. Even when we have the horma of the corpse also, even if without good reasons it is not possible to take cornea from one corpse, from one body after death. So we need to look at the other side of the coin. Now, every time we are balancing in our medical system, and in this balancing, yes, we do harvesting, these things, organs, and we save other people. And I want to add one thing very important regarding the previous discussions, that we need to be very careful about the definition of brain death. Brain death is not a reversible issue. Those people who are arguing that maybe something happens and it could be reversible should notice that until now there isn't any possibility. And the time that you have is usually 1 week or 2 weeks. And the record is, the highest record is 105 days in UK, that our technology can preserve a brain dead person. So we do not talking about years. Then the situation is completely different. Yes, if there was a possibility and there was a hope that in next 100 days something happens, yes. But without that, I don't think that this argument of finding a solution could work for brain death issues. But we did a lot of work to understand what jurists think about that brain death period, what they think. And we find two main ideas. The first is that usually we think about life and death as a biphasic issue. It is a life, then death. But when we go inside the text and the sources of the fiqh, we see that there are a third, part. It means that we have life, then we have a transient phase that is dying process, and then we go to the hereafter. So we have concept of ihtidar and concept of hayat ghayr mustaqarra, or unstable life, in Islamic history that shows that jurists from the, even in ibadat part, it is more ihtizar, that says a muhtadar patient should be respected, reading Quran around him, and some things. And from the Islamic law, we have the unstable life. It means that when people is, for example, stabbed by a knife and is dying, and another people comes and do something and the people die, the first person is responsible and should be punished, not the second person. It means that the unstable life is a period that our responsibilities, our understandings should be redefined. Our problem in is medical sector is that we have not recognized this transient period, and we extend our understandings, our responsibilities from the lifetime to the transition period. So even a dying patient, we do everything to extending the dying process. While when we look at carefully in the text, we see that the jurists are not very in favor of extending this time. They say, for example, you should read Quran, that God bring this person to the rest as soon as possible. It is not something that favorable for extension. And the Brain Death Act, this time we have an act in Iran. So there is a formal justification system which goes through the parliament situation. The act says that well-equipped hospitals with written authorization of Minister of Health and Medical Education are eligible for use the healthy organs of dead people or whom their brain death is indisputably confirmed. It means that dead people and those people whose brain death is indisputably confirmed. Again, in this act, the voice of ulama is echoed, that we do not consider brain death as a complete death yet, but it doesn't change our practice of organ transplantation. And again, we have a principlistic approach. It is for saving the lives, not for other reason. As you can see in this slide, there is a process that starts with usually for public request. This is very important. When people want, they will find a way. And then it goes usually to the medical professionals. Person go to the doctors, and the doctors in Iran went usually to the religious responsible bodies in the country, and they had the fatwa from the first and second and present leaders of the country, and then it was started in 1993 by the fatwa, and the law was in 2000. There is a practice for 7 years just using the fatwa, but it is very sensitive issue. It is issue of DA, issue of responsibility. Some people call it qatl, call it murder. So you need law, not only fatwa doesn't work. The case for abortion is very interesting because it has a history before revolution. That time, the government of Iran was secular, and after revolution, that now in Iran, all laws and acts must go through a guardian council. Guardian council is a place that they check if the acts and laws should be compatible with their interpretation of Islam. So in abortion, it's again a sinus issue. For example, abortion was criminalizing in Iran in 1926, a long time ago. 100 years ago. It was decriminalized for Iranian physicians in 1969. Again, it was decriminalized again for abortion under 12 weeks. And before revolution was in 1979, as you see. Before revolution, abortion under 12 weeks of gestation was almost, I can say, okay, for every physician could do that. But after revolution, it was very interesting. The first thing that was changed by the Revolutionary Council was the abortion. They say that, no, this is not our way, we should not do abortion. It was criminalized again, and even criminalizing in 1984 for death penalty for doing abortion after installment in 1984. But later, people saw that there are many cases, something should be done. There are requests for that. And even we do not have even one case of punishment with this law, but it was in the law. Again, in 1985, it was decriminalized again, and decriminalizing started again. And it was open and open and open. And now, in 1928 to 2003, there was an increased public and professional request because there was technologies for prenatal diagnosis or abnormalities during the gestation. So people wanted it, and the system tried to respond. And in 2010, the judiciary system provided a list of 52 mother and fetus problem that could be justification for medical abortion. And in 2002, 2005, it was debated in the parliament. It was very interesting. When you go and see the debates in the parliament, I went and read all of the debates. Even there are strong fatwas that you can do this before installment. Again, the representative of the society in the parliament, they said, no, we cannot accept for 3 years. It means that the fatwa is not the only player in the society. The civil society plays, people play, representative plays, and they try to have their works. Interestingly, at the end, in the parliament, the spokesman on the parliament asked for a strong and exigent fatwa from the leader. And this fatwa was provided where the persons were inside the parliament waiting for fatwa. And it was accepted by the leader of the country. The fatwa was present, but no one wanted to believe that. And the law is now that the therapeutic abortion is permissible with definite diagnosis of 3 specialist physicians and approval of the Forensic Medicine Organization for cases of fetus suffering from anomalies or that causes hardship to mother. It means that, again, a principle of hardship, al-usra wal-haraj, is in the law. And there are critics against this Therapeutic Abortion Act, but again, you can see that it starts with emerging a public request, and the public request is transferred to medical doctors. For example, in 1969, medical doctors could respond by themselves, and they responded. They opened the gate. But after revolution, again, we see that a process of decriminalization. And I can say nowadays, before the installment, it is not very hard to receive the permission for, abortion, even because of the mental hardship of the mother. So the situation is like that. The next case study is about assisted reproductive technologies that we will talk about that. It's 4 months of gestation, 120 days, yeah. What? Yeah, it's completely consensus. It is 18 weeks and 6 days. They have a missed period for 1 week, 18 weeks and 6 days. Even after that, no one can do that. Maybe illegally, but legally, no. In assisted reproductive technologies, again, this is an interesting case. Again, the same issue. We have the problem in the country. They ask medical professional goes to religious part of the country. What can we do? And now in Iran, it's permitted through the parliament. It is an official way to do that. For example, for embryo donation. Extra embryos are infertile couples that are freezed could be given legally according to the law passed in the parliament. But again, based on Ayatollah Khamenei fatwa, the president leader, which is we call it a Shaz fatwa, or a very rare fatwa, sperm donation and egg donation and surrogacy, all of them are permitted in Iran. So all of these things are accepted. Even I think that he's one of the, it was the only person that had this fatwa in the Islamic world. I think and nowadays there are some other fatwas in this regard. But at that time, again, people had to go through an issue. The other interesting case is sex reassignment surgery. We are talking about those transsexual persons that physically are complete men or women, but they think that they are trapped in the wrong physical body. They say that I'm trapped. My mind is a woman, I'm trapped in a man body, or I'm a man, I'm trapped in a woman body. Every test, hormonal, genetic, everything is okay. Psychology. This is an issue of psychology. And again, it's very interesting issue. For example, and they should do surgery finally, and nowadays it is these surgeries are completely subsidized in the country. People are given new sex identities. They can marry even, but the problem is that some ART clinics cannot help them, do not help them for being father and mothers. And we had a case in my own city that the mother changed the sex after having child. So the baby was encountering with a person that was his mother until 2 years ago. Now he is something like his uncle. Well, it's not. I heard that he calls him uncle. So this is something, again, without formal legislation. It is based on Ayatollah Khomeini fatwa. And Ayatollah Khomeini fatwa, again, there was an issue of khuntha in Islam, that khuntha means hermaphrodites. with sex ambiguity, not sex identity problem. Khuntha in the history of Islam has some regulations because they wanted earth, they wanted intimacy issues, they have many problems. And at that time, jurists wanted to respond to them. 5 minutes. Oh, yeah. Then again, Ayatollah Khomeini had a fatwa for this woman. This was man and then woman. And then this fatwa, Ayatollah Khomeini told, we need to think about this khuntha al-mushkila issue. He was used those old things. And then, you can see that. Again, in 1988, about 9 years after Ayatollah Khomeini, Sheikh Tantawi also had a fatwa about, and he called them al-khuntha. Oh, I'm sorry about the picture. I'm sorry. Yeah, I should change it. Thank you for considering that point. It was al-khuntha al-mushkil al-nafsiyya. It means that something wrong. We have the khuntha mushkil issue. Now we extend it to the nafsiyya issue. So, and the case study 7 is again very interesting. Now the society is suffering from ambiguity in the end of life decision making. People doesn't know when they can do CPR, they can do not CPR, turning off the respirators, what we should do. But no one's care. You know why? Because people do not want it. People are happy with this system. They think that they will do their best. And all ICU beds are collapsed. Physicians are happy because they have some people on the bed. Every day they just see them and they're dying. People are happy because, and nurses are happy because they're playing with the mobile sometimes. And the people are there. It's different when a young person is on the bed and you need to check vital sign every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So in this case, we have not official and non-official system. I expected 50 minutes, but you told me I have 35. So give me 5 minutes.
You have 30 minutes and it's complete. And then for discussion. For discussion, we have 10 minutes.
Okay, I need for 5 minutes because I need, if you mind. Okay, thank you very much. Again, in this issue, I explained. And finally, what I want to say using these cases, this is very important experience of mine that we have 2 pathways, formal and non-formal pathways. For example, for embryo donation, brain death, and therapeutic or medical abortion, we have laws, and we have less problem with those things that we have laws. Everything is almost clear. But for non-formal pathways, for example, we have selling kidneys. There are many problems with selling kidneys. Exploitation. In my hospital, I had a woman that escaped from hospital, and the day after her husband come and, why you permitted my wife to escape? The wife was under pressure to sell the kidney, and we don't know why. So when you start something just based on fatwa in a health system, you have health system, and you can control the consequences. Again, for gamete donation, there are not good registration in the society. Who knows? For example, we have an example in Iceland, in Europe, that all of the person's father was one person, and they called it the Adam of Iceland. He has hundreds of, babies. And in Iran, the justification is just fatwa, then goes to act, and then goes to bayla. Their public request is the most important issue. No one can resist, I think. The main reason that Iranian government permitted this issue, it is why the jurists are governing the society. They should respond. then it is different when we sit here in the room and say, for example, brain that is blah, blah, and those things, blah, blah. It's different than the Minister of Health should respond those people who are knocking at the door for dialysis, for having kidneys. Then I think that Iran is a very good example to say if the religion wanted to rule a society, what are the implementations, what are the requirements of that system. And also, there very good tendency for, yeah, I'm noticed that I'm overing the time. The long process of the act is another issue. It means that the fatwa is not the only thing people should accept, parliament should accept. Also, principle-based language is very important. The main challenges, I think, with this issue of development, fatwa-making methodology in medicine based on Iran experience are non-binding fatwas could be followed in ibadat by the believers. It's easy. In mu'amalat, that I can say you, health is a kind of interacting many parties, health system, government, physician, doctors, nurses. If you believe I can do abortion, you can't convince the physician to do that. You need a system for that. In mu'amalat, which are interaction with other humans and systems, such as health system fatwas, do not guarantee convincing all parties to allow the recommended practice, unless the fatwa is authoritative. A fatwa-making system works when it is suitably located inside the health system, regulatory bodies. In case of Iran, the direct political position power of the leader within the government is, in absence of an organized seminary, make it possible to have one authoritative fatwa. Even in this system, only few authoritative fatwas have been issued and come in practice for very highly debated issues. Other issues are mainly decided by a well-organized biomedical ethics discipline that fatwa is one consideration. And this is all of committees we have in Iran. We have a Supreme Council of Medical Ethics in Ministry of Health. We have a National Research Ethics Committee, National Clinical Ethics Committee, National Medical Ethics Education Committee. We have a Medical Council Ethics Board. We have a National Bioethics Committee in UNESCO and Academy of Medical Science situation. And the last slide is that authoritative fatwas need to be systematically implemented inside the health system. This system needs to be more utilitarian than deontological, therefore should extend its landscape. I quoted Professor Ibrahim Musa about this issue to include other disciplines, social sciences, cost effectiveness analysis, empirical data, in order to consider maslaha in the society. Present fatwa system is not enough developed for that, to be frankly saying. And it is a unilateral system, just says yes or no. Usually it's not convincing. Such complicated system, which is a multidisciplinary methodology and traditional fiqh is part of it, could be known as, medical fiqh, could be known as Islamic biomedical ethics, whatever you want. We need this multidisciplinary issue. Thank you again.